My name is Kat. I'm finally engaged to Doug, my boyfriend of 10 years from high school. Since we've been visiting each other's houses for a long time, we already know the families well. We're only in our late 20s, but already have the vibe of a mature couple. You're finally going to be my daughter-in-law. I've been waiting for it. I'm also happy to finally be Mistress Jones like you. Doug's mother, Stacy, was so excited once the wedding preparation started. I adored her, who was always smiling and caring, and started to call her mom over the past 10 years. By the way, where's Doug? We can't decide on the seating if he's not here. I also need to ask him about his rehearsal. I'm at her house to go over the details of our wedding. He and I had different engagements, so we were supposed to meet there. Oh, he texted me earlier that he got some urgent things to take care of. He said we could decide ourselves. He's so irresponsible. Don't mind him. She frowned at her son's nonchalance. It reminds me of the time when I was waiting for him here using his house key and you came back before him. Oh, right. That was during the summer. I remember he didn't come back for a while, so we had fun chatting away. He supposedly bumped into the friend and ended up hanging out with him at the time. His habit of canceling plans has been going on for a long time. I got used to dealing with it after 10 years. Stacy and I reminisced about the past while working on the wedding plan together. Doug kept canceling the preparation for our wedding after that. His habits seemed to get worse than before, and he was aware of it himself. I know I'm acting weird lately. Perhaps I got pre-wedding blues. I'll get over it soon, so please be patient with me. I reluctantly showed my understanding when he excused himself, but I'd actually wanted him to apologize instead of asking me to tolerate him. Wasn't it usually the bride who had the pre-wedding blues? Besides, was he really that sensitive? Never mind. By the way, what should we do for our honeymoon? Where do you want to go? I'm not keen to go overseas. I can't speak any other language than English anyway. I prefer to go somewhere within the country, like New York City, and eat. You're so not romantic. Well then, should we go to New Orleans and have jambalaya? Still about food. We discussed our honeymoon happily. My mood wasn't yet to be fully recovered, but we were in the middle of some fun planning. It wasn't very mature to stay in a bad mood. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. His so-called pre-wedding blues didn't get any better after that, and he kept canceling our meetings. There were nights when he didn't come home, saying he was going out with friends for one last bachelor drink. I felt a lot of frustration and a little mistrust. When I complained to him, he kept telling me, just for a little longer, I'll be back to myself when we get married. I was skeptical. Our wedding day arrived regardless of his odd behavior. It was a clear blue sky on the morning of the ceremony, and our prospects seemed to be bright. After 10 years of dating, we finally became a married couple, watched over by old friends, relatives, and colleagues. Doug swore to me that he would love only me for the rest of his life, and I imagined a bright future ahead of us. Once the wedding was over, it was time for our honeymoon after a short break. We were going to eat till we dropped for 4 nights, 5 days in New York City. I chose clothes for the climate, made a list of souvenirs, and put sticky notes in a guidebook. My excitement grew bigger by the day. On the morning of our departure, Doug went to the bakery to buy some breakfast. I was doing the final check of my luggage and putting on some makeup. A little later, I got a call from Doug. Wondering if my order was out of stock, I picked up the phone.
Hey, honey, I just got a call from the hospital. My mom was rushed to the emergency room.
What? It was nothing to do with my breakfast, but an unanticipated incident. That energetic and cheerful Stacy was in trouble. The joyful melody playing in the background of Doug's voice contradicted the situation and annoyed me.
I'm heading there now. I can't go on a trip. You've been looking forward to it, so you go ahead. I'm really sorry. I won't be able to take a call for a while.
Wait, which hospital is she in? He hung up on me before I finished my sentences. He turned off his phone right away, so I couldn't get in touch with him after that. I was flabbergasted. It was an important milestone in our life, yet another cancellation at the last minute. Well, this time was out of his control. After all, my mother-in-law, whom I adored, was rushed to the emergency room. Her request was on the list of souvenirs. She was looking forward to the chocolates from Mary Bell. There was no way I could go on a trip by myself. I decided to rush to the hospital as soon as I got in touch with Doug again. I was restless, wandering around the house and waiting to hear from him. My phone finally rang 30 minutes later. I picked it up even before the first ring finished.
Yes.
Hi, Kat. Good morning. You're leaving today, right? It seems cold there, so take care and enjoy your trip. Wait, is this Mom? The call was from the one who had supposedly been rushed to the hospital. I picked up the phone without checking the caller on the screen. I was totally confused about what was happening. Did Doug have two mothers? Maybe that one I knew was an adoptive mom, and he had a birth mom? Is this really Mom? What's wrong with you? Why do you sound so strange? It was her for sure. I thought you were taken to the hospital. Huh? For what? I'm good as usual. She sounded dubious. I realized that Doug lied to me. It didn't matter to him that we just got married, but why? I couldn't figure out the reason. When Stacy finished listening to my explanation, she lowered the tone of her voice. I see. I'm really sorry about my idiot son. I don't know what he's trying to do. Well, can you hold for a minute? I didn't know why, but I was bothered by something. It was the cheerful melody I could hear in the background on Doc's call. I opened my tablet to see if I could figure out what was bugging me. My hunch was on point, and I found what I wanted to know right away. Hey, Kat, what's going on? Mom, do you want to go on a trip with me? What? Let's go to New York City together. I could feel that she was contemplating. My brain cells began to work toward revenge against Doug. Watch out, bastard. Stacy and I enjoyed our trip and returned home after 5 days. Doug never called me, but sent me texts like, "Having a good time? Don't worry about my mom." I was amazed by his foolishness. His mom was with me, yet he thought his life was still intact. My feelings for him quickly evaporated. He was not only dishonest, but was a total moron. Stacy agreed with my plan to punish him severely. She and I took an earlier flight back home and waited for Doug's return. He came back a little before I was originally scheduled to be back. He was taken aback by the sight of me.
Oh my god, you're already back!
Yes. He brought in a sweet scent of perfume with him. He must have planned to shower before I came back. I pretended not to notice and asked him nonchalantly, "I'm sorry for leaving you behind. How did it go with you?"
Oh no worries. I told you to go. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, very much. I got you a souvenir. And your mom?
She's out of critical condition, thankfully.
That's great. I would like to visit her.
It's all good. Don't make a big deal for her.
It was impossible not to make a big deal out of a family member being rushed to the emergency room. I thought he was crazy. Listen, Doug, what you're saying is weird.
Why? Because
Stacy was very ill, wasn't she? Why can't I go and visit her then?
Ugh, you're overreacting. I'm telling you to drop it.
Drop it? How? You're nuts.
You went on a trip regardless. That doesn't sound considerate, does it? End of the story.
Then I coyly gave him the multiple choice question. Here's a quiz for you. I did go on the trip, but who on earth did I go with? 1. A friend. 2. My husband. 3. Your mom. Which is your answer?
What the hell?
He backed away so far that he was against the wall. As he was cornered, I showed him pictures from the trip. A picture of Stacy and I in the same pose as the Statue of Liberty. Stacy biting into a big slice of New York-style pizza, and me eating Mr. Sophie Soft's ice cream cone in Central Park. There were dozens of other photos.
You are kidding?
Of course not. She was with me. Now, here's another quiz. It wasn't your mom you've been with. So, who was it?
It wasn't my mom, but my aunt.
You are a freaking moron, aren't you? If you're going to lie, come up with something better. It was astounded when the bedroom door opened. I can't listen to you guys anymore. Doug, where have you gone?
What the? Mom?
Oh no, you aren't supposed to come out yet. Sorry, but I can't stand it anymore. Shame on you, Doug. Come over here and sit. Stacy jumped out, looking furious. She had him sit in a chair and stood beside him in rage. Where have you been the past 5 days? Where's your motive to making your aunt and me sick? He flustered, looking pale as a ghost. Explain, and don't you dare lie to me. He was like a lobster on the kitchen counter. His fate was to be cooked by his mom and me, although he didn't look so tasty. To sum up his story, which he explained in agitation, he was indeed cheating on me. It was a fling in the beginning. He and I had been dating since high school, so he didn't know any other women. He thought it was a shame, so he came up with the idea of playing the field in his remaining days of bachelorhood. His motive for cheating was too ridiculous that it infuriated me more. If he had just gone to a strip club, I could have turned a blind eye, but he chose adultery. And the adulteress was his co-worker, whom we had invited to our wedding. They both had such thick skin. The reason he kept canceling our pre-wedding meetings was to hang out with her. When the ceremony was done, so was the fling, he thought. He made a chance to be alone with her during the reception and told her it was over for them. However, she had fallen for me and resisted breaking up. She used threats like, "I would tell everyone at work about us when you're away on a honeymoon trip. Don't go if you don't want me to do that. I'm not going to break up with you." Their discussion was tangled up until the day of our honeymoon. The reason he suddenly canceled the trip was to calm his adulteress from going out of control. But I already knew his story contradicted the truth. He didn't decide to cancel on a day, but had already decided way before. When Stacy called me, I found out his lie. When I had checked on my tablet that day was his credit card statement, which showed a record of Amtrak and hotel name. The destination was New Orleans. It was one of the potential honeymoon spots for us. The payment was made 2 weeks ago, and there was no sign of cancellation. Taking all that into that account, it meant that he originally planned to cancel his honeymoon and go to New Orleans with his adulteress. I also checked the cheerful music playing behind his rubbish call on social media. The familiar music was coming from the fountain in the Amtrak station. When he made that call to me, his trip with his adulteress had already started. How ludicrous of him. If he had planned it for so long, he should have been more methodical with his deceit. It was really pathetic. When I exposed his lie, to my surprise, he started crying. I was the one who should have been crying, and not him who created the fiasco. He had already lied when he swore at the wedding that he would only love me for the rest of his life. He lied about his mom being rushed to the emergency room, and again, lied about the sudden cancellation of our honeymoon. How could I trust him after all these lies? He may have been seeing other women when he canceled our plans before this. 10 years of our relationship had completely fallen apart, and I couldn't return to it. I want a divorce.
Wait a moment, honey. I'm really sorry. Let's start over. We've only been married less than a month. You've got to let this minor mistake go.
A minor mistake? Don't you be the judge. He's an idiot, Kat. I apologize on his behalf. You are so insensitive to what you've actually done to her. You won't be able to regain her trust for the rest of your life. Reflect on that, you loser. She fiercely scolded him. After 10 years of dating and 1 month of marriage, he was abandoned by his wife and his mom. He wailed shamelessly in despair. Doug and I divorced in the end. There was not a shred of affection or love left in me after 10 years together. All I had was dismay and coldness. He resisted the divorce for a long time, but he eventually gave up and signed the papers in tears. People around me were stunned to hear about the quick end of my marriage, but when I explained the audio, they sympathized with me. I returned the gifts and money I received from them. It was easy for me to do because of the alimony from Doug. My coworker says she will set up blind dates for me soon. She tells me to forget about marriage for a while and play the field. I agree with her, and I'm looking forward to fun encounters. Doug, too, announced his divorce and was surprised, but he couldn't get into the detail. In his case, how could he declare that it was due to his adultery? And the adulteress was in the same office. Anyway, it spread from my side, and almost everyone in his office knew about it. He's frowned upon by colleagues as a guy who canceled his honeymoon for a trip with his adulteress. I would think no company can entrust an important job to such an idiot in the future. He made his bed. Now he has to sleep in it. As for the adulteress, she broke up with him. Apparently, she was a maid poacher. She lost interest in Doug after we separated. She's a villain of all women. I've been scheming to get back at her with the evidence I have. Stacy has been source of all that information. Since I no longer have any relationship with Doug, it's weird to keep calling her mom, but it's also weird for me to call her by her name all of the sudden. I contemplate how to address her in Meanwhile. I still call her mom. She couldn't believe Doug's adultery at first and was greatly shocked when she found out. She was consistently on my side after that. When I demanded alimony from him, she even pressured him for me. I wondered why she was so cooperative regardless of our 10-year relationship. I would think that she would try to protect her own son. So I asked her one day. Her eyes stare into the distance while she explains to me. To be honest, I've been cheating before. Oh no, by your husband? Yes, I found out half a year after we got married. Seeing her always cheerful, I never imagined she went through such a terrible thing. But when I was a newlywed, the position of women was still weak in society. When I cried to my mother-in-law, she snapped at me, saying it was a wife's duty to turn a blind eye. My husband also said that it was a man's way of stress relief. I just couldn't conceive myself. The mistrust I developed then has never left me. I'm sorry. So, I had to try a little harder as a consolation to the old me. She looks at me and smiles mischievously. Never mind me, but your life is just beginning. I'm glad that you become my daughter-in-law, even if it was only for a short time. Thank you for inviting me on the trip too. I was so happy that I could choose my own chocolates. I templated for a bit and then asked her, well, if you don't mind, can we continue to be good friends? Not as my mother-in-law, but as a real friend. I would love to, but won't it be too painful for you? You would be reminded of Doc, wouldn't you? Not at all. You've been so kind to me, so I'm much better now. Are you sure? Sure. I'm really over him and the whole ordeal now. She contemplates a bit and then says, well, I'm happy to be your friend. Will you take a trip with me again? Of course. She gives me a giddy smile. Doc and I parted in a messy way, but I still adore her. We get along so well. I'm going to secretly practice calling her by name by the next time I see her.